right, and we are live. Okay, Matt Scarbury, thank you for joining us today.
No problem.
This is going to be our first episode of whatever it turns into, so
Copy that.
I do appreciate your time. As we've talked offline, the whole goal of today is basically to have a conversation. Same conversation we would have around the kitchen table at the firehouse, tailboard, hot wash, whatever you call it.
Okay.
And basically just pass along whatever tidbits you might have to myself and the next generation.
Okay.
So, I'll just start out today and ask you, will you do me a favor and introduce yourself? What's your experience?
Matt Scarbury. I've been Washington Township for since '97, so almost 25 years now. Do a lot of teaching around with Bowling Green, rescue methods, run the program at Delaware Career Center for several years, and just try and stay active.
Very cool. And what program at Delaware Career Center?
The fire training program.
Okay.
Firefighter 1 and 2.
And what had been your roles in that over the years?
Well, I started out right after I finished fire school. I was good friends with Jack Reel and Jim Kennel and Mitch Ross, and they pretty much just let me stick around. I was just one of them dorky kids that just wanted to go to fires and be around it as much as I could. So as soon as I graduated, I just stuck around and would help out and whatever. And then once I had enough time on to get my instructor card, I did that. And next thing I know, I was the program coordinator and running the place or running part of it. And I did 7 years with Jim Kennel as the lead instructor, and he was the program coordinator. And then I think another 3 years here recently once we moved down to the South Campus.
Very cool. And you're still doing that?
No, I stepped down last year just because it was just time. Kristen Hunt was ready to step in, and she's doing a great job, and it was just a good timing thing that it was time to get out of there.
Yeah.
I still teach over there. It's just not running it like
Sure.
I was.
And obviously today, one of the things we want to talk about is leadership and just general, that's both tactical and in the firehouse. We all know that there's a very big difference sometimes between navigating the firehouse, navigating normal life, and then running a command. Those require different skill sets.
Right.
So let's start out with a general softball question. How do you define leadership? Where do you see yourself in that leadership continuum, if you will?
I think I don't think you can define it. It's just it constantly moves. I don't think there's anybody that is this guy has got leadership figured out, because every scenario is different. Every person is different that you interact with. So there's really, what will work for one firefighter may not work for the other one. And I have 3 kids, and we always laugh that 3 kids raised in the exact same house with the exact same 2 parents with the exact same 2 fundamental, concepts of parenting and life and everything like that. And my 3 kids are completely different people. And I think leadership is kind of the same way when you're dealing in the firehouse or you're on the scene. The only thing that my wife and I have always said, and I think they kind of go hand in hand, is you just have to love them and you have to be consistent. Everything else is a complete crapshoot.
Yeah.
And I think the firehouse is the exact same way. When it comes to dealing with your firefighters and, interacting with your bosses, be consistent and try and love them and treat them with respect and humility. And that doesn't always work. And I will, my wife and my kids will be the first to tell you, it's like, that's a nice theory, but it doesn't always work. And I'm sure anybody that works with me or has worked for me would say the same thing. It's like, it's a constantly revolving, hoping type operation.
So let's talk about that real quick, because you talk about consistency.
Mm-hmm.
How do you inoculate your day? How do you inoculate yourself from having those ups and downs and spilling that into the crew?
Man, a lot of it probably is just, the things that I listen to. I try and refresh with different podcasts and motivational speeches, and so that way you come into work every day with a good attitude. Greg Lash said one time, about listening to motivational speeches about it's like you got to wash your plate after dinner. Every day that thing gets dirty, but we still got to wash it. And that's kind of the way I look at a lot of that stuff. Is on my way into work, I always try and have something on the radio or that I'm listening to that is positive in some manner. Give me motivation to learn about something or anything like that, because to me it helps. Maybe it doesn't work for everybody, but to me it helps. If I can start my day off, with a good attitude and being in a good place, there's a better chance that I'm going to come in and talk to you in a better place.
So you're actually saying that you should make sure you work on yourself as much as you're.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And I don't even think that, it's not something I think about. It's like, I don't have like a regimen where it's like, I got to work on myself today. It's just, I just want to make sure that I'm in a good place, and it's always in the forefront of my mind of, you got to have, your attitude's got to be good for the people around you to be good.
I like that. You talk about motivation. How do you look to motivate your guys? What have you found has worked and what doesn't work?
I would say the easiest thing that works is just we focus on what our job actually is. The crews that I have, and one, I've been super blessed with some really outstanding people. I mean, just really good people that has bought into it. We focus on being good at our job, and I just think there's so much. When you look at the kind of people we are in the fire service, when you look at, I was just telling Chief O'Connell this the other day. When I would start a fire class, I would always ask them, what do you want to be? Why do you want to be a firefighter? And I'd be real frank about, I don't want to hear that you want to help people. Everybody wants to help people. If you want to do that, go plant flowers at the nursing home. I don't care. Why do you want to do this job? And it always comes back to that teamwork and camaraderie and brotherhood and sisterhood and family and, the sweat and, all that stuff. That's what draws people to us. So when you look at the crews that you have, if you focus your day on doing those things, those kinds of people are going to be happier. And that's really the bottom line. I mean, I just really try and focus on things that impact us, make us safer, make us better. And by all means, there's days that you go up and down. I've had plenty of days that I'm just terrible today. I'm in a bad place. I'm worried about something that I shouldn't be worried about. But if you build an entire crew around that mindset of worry about the things that you can control and that we actually hired you to do, which was to take runs and to be a good firefighter, be a good paramedic, then you're going to be in a better place at the end of the day, mentally, physically, and that kind of thing. So that's really what I try and focus on.
So you mentioned brotherhood through sweat.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you put that into practice in the field?
We train together.
Yeah.
I really, one of the things, I think you got to, if you're the boss, you got to be in there working just as hard as everybody else with. And that doesn't mean, well, I'm going to go, I got administrative work to go do. You have to put in the same amount of work they do. I'm going to be inside the building. I've had that conversation with several of the battalion chiefs, and it's when you show up on the scene, where do you expect me to be? I'm going to be working. So I just feel like one of the ways that you get that better relationship with your crew is when it's time to work, you work. You don't send them to go work. You go work. So it just seems to work better in a relationship, when you're trying to get people on board with what you're trying to get done.
Interesting. One of the things I've kind of noticed is, so where I'm at, I'm out of class, just kind of learning. A lot of people are like, well, better get used to not being a firefighter because you're now coaching and running rather than actually doing the job. And so it's interesting to hear you kind of say you're also going to be working.
You are, you are, if you're at a scene or whatever, your role isn't the same. But with you're still going to be in the mix of it, and you still have to know your job. And I think the easiest way to gain respect from the people that you work with is, they know that you're good at your job and you can do it. Even officers that I've had over the years that we may not have agreed on how to run the firehouse or how to do whatever, if they were good at their job, they got a pass, on a lot of things. I mean, on a lot of things that was just goofy. But when the tone went off and it was time to go get after it, that officer could do it. And I remember Chief Wu asking me one time, he's like, why do you guys put up with that? It's like, because the guy can get it on when it's time.
Yeah.
And that just gives you just a little bit of credibility and a little bit of, I don't know, flex on dumb things that you do, which we all do. I don't care who you are.
Sure.
Whatever officer you are, you can be the greatest ever, and you're still going to make stupid decisions, make stupid comments that either A, you didn't mean, or B, you're just not smart enough to understand. And believe me, anybody that's ever worked with me or been around me for more than 5 minutes, and there'll be plenty of people at the end of this little thing, they'll be like, that guy's an idiot. It is just the facts. You're human and you're playing for the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
So
one thing I kind of am hearing is grace has a lot to do with it. Grace for yourself, grace.
Yeah.
How do you think that comes into play in your world?
I really try not to take things personal, and that's probably something that I spend a lot of time with is, whether you like it, don't like it, or mad at me about it, it's not personal. I was in a situation that I had to make a decision and you didn't agree with it. Okay.
Yeah.
Moving on. I try and give people that opportunity to speak their mind to me. But at the end of the day, you got to make a decision. We got to move on. But yeah, I mean, you have to forgive people for the mistakes they make. I don't want you to judge me that hard, because it's obvious that I'm going to mess it up regularly.
Sure.
So I think you just have to give that back, and it's not easy. Don't think that any of that is easy to do, because it's certainly not. But if you make it a priority to you, then it goes a little bit better, I think.
I like that. I'm jumping around a little bit, but it's good stuff, so I want to catch it. You said that you got to let people say their mind sometimes.
Sure.
How do you balance that between saying their mind, and we all know that venting is healthy.
Yeah.
How do you keep that productive? How do you keep that from just turning into a spiral complaint session?
I think it's just kind of gut feeling for me. I mean, we've had several times, obviously every fire department does, you're sitting around the kitchen table and, whatever policy came up or whatever situation came up, and, you always want to let it go for a little while, but you just have that kind of, that gut feeling in the back. It's like, okay, this is went long enough, or, we're going past this being productive, and one of the things that I always, and I got it from a firefighter as soon as I got made captain, I went to 95s, and Angela Holmes was down there, and she talked about family time after meals. And that's usually where we can get that stuff, and you give them that opportunity to vent a little bit, but you try and just keep it focused. I think that's one of the most important things that I've done. And it wasn't anything that I did. She was the one that told me, he's like, look, we're going to have family time after meals. We get done eating and we're going to sit around here and talk and get to know each other. And if there's one thing that I would say changed the dynamic of my fire station, wherever I'm assigned or whatever, it's that. Because we get so much of an opportunity to know each other and see each other, and what's a good day, what's a bad day. And like I say, that's the only thing when I've moved stations that is non-negotiable to me. Everything else, like there is literally thousands upon thousands of things that we can talk about, and like it doesn't have to be my way. I'm just a country kid that likes to hunt and fish, and so I don't have all the answers. That's the only thing that I've ever had that this is non-negotiable. when we finish eating, we're going to sit here and we're going to talk and get to know each other, because that's where you find that balance as a company officer. That's where you find it. That's how you learn your crew. And it's not, I'm not talking we're going to sit here for 2 hours. You know, a half hour, 45 minutes is plenty of time. Sometimes it ain't even that long, but you learn so much about your people, and you give them those opportunities, and you learn how to balance that back and forth of how much is enough time, how much isn't enough time. So, I mean, if like I say, if there's one thing that has really changed my crew dynamic, it's that. And Ange, I believe Ange got it from a lieutenant at Norwich, Brian, I can't remember his last name now, I can see his face. But it's helpful. It has definitely helped.
I like that. So giving them that time actually is a really great thing. One of the things that I have kind of been thinking about is, obviously, as firefighters, we like to fix things. That's our job. We come into chaos and we try to make order of it, and then we mitigate that situation, right? And I think a lot of times I've found that obviously there's toxic situations, but when they're not toxic, it's usually firefighters legitimately just trying to fix things. Sure. And if there's nothing big to fix, they fix the small things.
Right.
And so it's really interesting. One thing I'm trying to put in play, and I don't know how well I'm doing it, but I'm learning, is at the end of every conversation, it's like, okay, what are we doing today? You know, how are we going to flip this? And how are we going to, that's something you want to do. What can we do today to progress that? Yeah. And just, you know, trying to see if we can turn that into an action plan at every conversation, even if it's a small thing.
Yeah, that's always something. It's the exact same thing you're saying, but I always look at, how do I get to yes? You know, everything that I'm doing, when you have a complaint, when you have an issue, how do we get to yes? If we're trying to buy a piece of equipment, how do I get the chief to say yes? You know, and it's that aggressive, always thinking, always aggressive mindset of, I got to get this done. And sometimes, you know, and I've had this before, sometimes this guy just needs a win. Mm-hmm. You know, he's got an idea, and he's had several of them shot down, and this brother or sister needs a win, man. And, you know, you try and find that balance. But yeah, you always, what can we do? What is in our area of influence that we can use to make this situation better, and focus more on that than the negative of, you know, well, you know, Captain Scarbury said we can't do that. Well, how do we show this in a light that he will see what I'm trying to see? Especially at our place. I mean, we've got unbelievable people. Yeah. I mean, these people are tier A people anywhere in any other fire service going. So we don't get the completely harebrained ideas, you know, that you're just like, what? No, we're not getting a helicopter division. Are you crazy? You know, we just don't have that. As much as I would think it would be awesome, we just don't have it. So just giving those people the opportunity, and then just keeping a lane, you know, keeping everybody in their lane. And I know you've heard me say that a ton of times, and I don't even have any idea where I came up with it. I just said it one day, and it's like, oh, it's kind of funny. Just stay in your lane. Focus on the job that you were hired for, and staying in your lane. And I've just found that for me and the crew that I have, if I can keep myself and my crew focused on their lane, and let the battalion chiefs focus on their lane, let the chiefs focus on their lane, we're going to be successful. Yeah. 9 out of 10 times, we're going to be successful. You know, we pay the chiefs a lot of money, and they do a heck of a good job, and I don't want their job. It's kind of like my wife's job. It's like, I've seen the boss's job, and I don't want it. Yeah. You know, and that's kind of the way I look at that. So it's like, man, I hope they nail it, because
I always find that if just by staying in your lane, and I was kind of there at the inception of that thought. Yeah. Staying in your lane, I always find that there's enough to handle. Yeah, that absolutely. I'm too busy to do anything else.
Absolutely. And I say that all the time. It's like, man, if I could just get my lane squared away, I'm pretty sure the entire fire department will run better, just because they wouldn't have to worry about me messing something else up. Yeah. But yeah, there's so much. Chief Rebel and I met the other day just talking about, I'm getting ready to go to 92s, and I haven't been over there in a long time, and just how much it's changed and how much I got to study again. And, just to learn to be functional in your job.
Yeah.
And like you say, if you just get your part figured out, chances are we'll be good. And if we can get a group of us to figure out our own job, oh my!
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to set this place on its head.
And you probably won't have enough time when you're done to even worry about anything else.
We'll not have enough time. You will go to bed at night very, very peaceful.
Yeah.
You will be tired, for sure.
How do you balance the different personalities of the job? I think it was you the other day that said that you're a coach, you're a dad, run me through all of those. And what is the job description of a company officer?
Captain Stewart and I was talking the other morning, and of the job description of an officer, and what it was said to us when we got promoted initially, and what it actually came out to be, and it was. And I can't even remember. We were laughing and rattling off, but it was, a coach, a dad, a mentor, a student. And we was laughing at you're the responsible adult that sometimes you got to tell people it's like, that's not a good idea. You're sometimes the responsible accomplice that you were there when it wasn't a good idea, and you went along with it anyway, and you're the one that's going to get in trouble for it. And then you're the responsible party that you didn't even know what was going on, and you're still going to get in trouble for it. So, but there's so much of that to me, that's the fun of the job.
Yeah.
I love seeing the new firefighters come in, and you get to encourage them, and you see the things that they're excited about. That's always fun. You see the younger couples. My wife and I be married 25 years this year, and I love her more now than I did the day I married her. But that's through work, and you get to encourage people in that aspect, encourage people in their faith, and they get to see you make mistakes. I mean, I had a dealing there at the end of the year last year with a firefighter, and I was on one page and he was on another, and I basically was just like, look, dude, don't worry about it. We're not going to worry about any of that stupid stuff. We're going to just do our job. And that was not what he needed to hear. He needed to hear me understand what he was trying to say. And I left there and I felt like such a meathead, because it's like, how could you be so just rude about that guy's feelings and what he wanted? And I've called him a couple times and apologized to him, and but there's so much that you learn from just being not good at your job, or you're thinking about other things, and you just beg that guys forgive you for it. And I always try and tell people you're playing for the benefit of the doubt, because you're going to be terrible. You just play for the benefit of the doubt that most of the time he didn't intend to be that bad. And, about half the time they're right, probably half the time they're wrong. But it's tough. It's tough to build those relationships, and it takes so much time, and they can be gone in just a blink.
Yeah.
And that's the part that that I think the older I get, the more I think about that kind of thing, is just, how quick it can be taken away from you. You just try and be humble with everybody. And it's like you said, you got to let people vent a little bit, but as long as we're not just full losing our mind. And I've had that, and I've done that. I mean, anybody that knows me has known that I've had quite the temper over the years. And, as the older I get, it seems like I'm trying to get it under control. My wife says I'm getting better at it. My kids think I am. So probably anybody that had me in fire class 10, 15 years ago would definitely say I've changed. But, you get that through systems not working. That experience is what you get after you needed it. But you let people talk, and you let people vent, and you listen. And I think if you can build a relationship with people that they know that they can say what they need to say without you holding a grudge, and without you being personally upset with them or whatever, then that goes a long way.
Now, you mentioned that you just hope that they don't judge you as long as, you talked about not judging for very long and forgiving mistakes and stuff like that. I think that's a real important point, and I want to come back to that and kind of have you expand on it. Obviously we're tough enough on ourselves,
Sure.
And so it's awesome to have grace for other people and give them that patience to recover from their mistakes.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's the job that we have is so dynamic. There's 400 different variables to every single scenario we go to, and you're trying to get somebody to make the absolute correct decision with a quarter of the information needed to make the decision, and then we're going to judge them for the next 10 years of their career based on what they did at 2 o'clock in the morning with 42 other things going on.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, that's a tough play for somebody. I know a lot of times I try and walk things back to a point where I can see what you saw at the time you made the decision. Whether the decision was right or wrong, or, how you handled something was right or wrong, that's, there's a ton of things that can play into that, even, in the firehouse, out of the firehouse, whatever. But if we can get back to where the initial point where you had to make a decision and what things you saw at that point, and then we can learn from there, the next time you're in that situation, maybe we can change that outcome.
Sure.
Because now we've changed the decision-making factors. Not so much, well, I learned that didn't go well. No, it's clear it didn't go well. We've already figured that part out. That was easy to go. What I want to know is the 4 or 5 things that you seen and heard and recognized to get you to that point. And sometimes in the firehouse, it's the what actions was said to make you mad? What things didn't I do as your leader to get you in a position where you could make a better decision? And if we learn those, then the next time you're in that situation, maybe you're going to make a better call, or maybe you're going to handle it differently. Maybe you're going to be the one that's super calm today. And you've obviously been to 93s and up on my whiteboard in the office. No matter the situation, you be the most calm person in the room. And that piece of advice right there that I got from a guy on a podcast, it's like that has been so impactful in so many different things about, when you're in that moment, you just tell yourself, you be the most calm person here. And very rarely have I ever seen that if you can remain calm and make a decision, you're going to make a better decision than you are if you're worked up in the moment. Yeah. Just about every time. So
you were kind of alluding to it there about, like a decision tree almost. So you want to actually fix it at what led you to the decision, not actually the results of it.
Correct.
One of the things that requires oftentimes is RPDM or experience, as you have another generation coming up, whether it be brand new firefighters with no experience or brand new fire officers who are just building their experience and may not have the repetitions either through live fire, just because we're not burning like we did in the 70s. How do you go about creating that repetition for yourself and that muscle memory and that RPDM?
I think you stay involved. One of the things that when we were all teaching for Rescue Methods and Bowling Green, that I think helped us more than anything is the people that we were around. To get, even we weren't going to every fire. And, my father-in-law was on the fire service at Columbus in the 70s. He came on in 73, and, I can remember him telling me, he's like, man, I was at 15s. We had 6 first-in working fires that day. Those days are gone. I don't know anybody that's going to get that. But the ways that you can, get something is being around those people that are into the job. I always try and be around people that I think are better than me. During that time when we were teaching so much, I got to spend a lot of time with Tim Wyckoff, Fred Gardini's lieutenant here, Craig Lash, J.D. Vassbinder. And it was just like this. It was us sitting around talking. And, maybe we were going to shoot a video on going through a lock or whatever, but it's the side stories that you get and the side experience that you get from those people. Just be engaged in it. You can't just show up every third day and think that you're going to be good at this job. You're just not. It's just there's so much more to learn to keep you safe and to make you good at what you do. It's just impossible. So, I mean, I guess that would be my thing, is get around people that are talking about being firefighters as much as you can.
Jump ship there for 1 second. You said every third day you can't just show up and be good at this job.
Correct.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
I've also kind of seen from a lot of the 4-unit interviews that I've done a habit of giving too much and not back to your family, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you've been married 25 years. You've found a balance. You've found a success. You haven't been divorced 9 times like other people. Nope. How do you manage to give so much to both ends of your life and still have something left in the middle?
One is my wife. I mean, she is unbelievable. 2, I think there's always been she's always looked at how much time I spend doing my job is a direct impact of my ability to come home to her and the kids. And I've heard her say that to younger spouses that are people just getting into the fire service and maybe over to the house for dinner or something like that. And we would get to talking about how she balances, that lifestyle. And she's always told him, and I've always believed what she said, if I spend more time training and I spend more time getting good at my job, there is a higher likelihood that I am going to come home to that family because I'm safer, more effective, better at what I do. And not only that, I'm not only going to come home physically, I'm going to come home better mentally because I've prepared for what is going to happen. Anybody that's been around this very long at all knows there is going to be good days and bad days. You're going to see things in this job that you never ever want to see. Somebody asked me the other day about doing CPR or whatever. It's like, I don't care if I ever do CPR again. I've done it enough. I don't need to see any more dead people. Yeah. And the more you train, the more you prepare yourself, the more you put yourself in a situation where you're going to be successful. You get into that mindset of bad things are going to happen, and there's nothing I can do about that. But I've trained as hard as I can possibly train. I've put myself in the best possible situation to be successful in that bad situation, and sometimes there's just nothing I can do about it. Yeah. And I think that's helped me come home with a better understanding. It's helped her, and I think that's something that she would promote, that you got to let your spouse go train. You got to let them be involved in this because that's the only way when things go bad, you're going to have the opportunity to walk away from it.
Sure.
So, I mean, I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. And it's also kind of like it can either be hard in the weight room or hard in the street.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it seems like I often tie a correlation between EMS and fire because it's what we do, but we don't always maintain the same standards in each environment. Right. And it seems like it's kind of funny because you maintain that standard in the weight room as you do on the street, and I see you applying that in your home life as well.
You have to. It all has to. It's got to be very consistent, and. Like I say, a lot of it I will give her a ton of credit. She grew up in a firehouse. Her dad was a Columbus fireman her entire life, so she's never known anything. She's scared to death when I retire that I'm going to be home every day. So, a lot of that is her and the way that she has handled the house when I'm not there. But, she's encouraged me to go to training. She's encouraged me to take on extra things to make me better at my job. Because I think she recognized that's how when I'm home, and I'm focused on being a dad, being a husband, doing that kind of thing, more than I'm still worried about what happened yesterday at the firehouse, or I'm still worried about what run went on. And believe me, there's tons of them. There's even all of that. There is still tons of things that I can sit back and think about, and it's like, oh my goodness, that was, I don't know why we did that. And you sit and think about it, but it's something I've always told my kids, and I try and do it myself as much as I can. I just want your best. Just give me your best every day, and that's good enough. You're going to lose. I'm okay with you losing, but you lose with your best. And I just think if you can keep that in mind day in and day out when you're training, or when you're trying to get things accomplished, that's going to go a long way for you.
I like that. I'm actually writing that one down. Lose with your best.
Lose with your best. Yeah. My son wrestles, and and I'm hard on my kids. If they would happen to listen to this, I don't know why they would, but if they would, I don't want anybody to think that I'm not. But I can remember just chewing his butt one time because he was wrestling, and he didn't wrestle hard. And I tore him from limb to limb, and this woman walked by and said, "It's okay, buddy." And I looked right at her, and I'm like, "It is not okay. Don't you ever say that it's okay. That is not okay." And I felt it's like, gee, many Christmas, man, you just yelled at a woman in a hallway at a youth wrestling tournament. What kind of meathead are you? But it's that mindset that you give everything you can, and at the end of the day, it is what it is. So
yeah, I like that. How do you, when you talk about creating an environment where you're of preparation, how do you go about preparing your crews? Do you have a systemic way of doing that? Do you just kind of flow with whatever seems to be weak at that moment? And because in the training room we have a lot of very systemic workouts, right? And we know what's coming weeks in advance. Do you do that same thing in the firehouse, or is it more of what can we work on today?
I have always, there's always the standardized trainings, but I have always found that you get a better training when somebody just brings up a topic. That tailboard training that, somebody happens to pull a piece of equipment off the truck and they're like, what? I didn't know this thing did that. And the next thing you know, an hour and a half later, you're still standing there next to the truck. You've got half the hose off the engine, and you're working nozzles, and you walk away from it going, that was better than anything that I could have put together a class for you guys or whatever. I try and look at the stats that we have. We're really good at keeping that kind of thing, and it has its place, and it's something that you can use. We started focusing on basement fires because we were having a lot of basement fires. Look at your district and figure out, what do you have in your district that is going to get one of us hurt? I tried, Chief Regal and I were talking the other day about the things that you don't think of, that red slice of what have I not thought of that's going to get us? And, I try and put a little time into that of, what haven't we had in a while? If we haven't had a, whatever kind of run in a little while, I try and bring that up. But it's just that you're engaged every day, and listen to your crew. They're engaged. They're good people. They got good ideas. They didn't give me a book of answers when I got promoted either time. And I always joke that, I got promoted to captain because they didn't learn their lesson the first time, but neither time did I get a book of answers of how to do things, so listen to your firefighters. They have great ideas. They know more about what you're not doing than anybody on the planet. So, listen to them, encourage them. And when they have ideas, let it fly. You don't have to be the end all be all know all. You're not gonna be. We started doing the pit crew CPR, and it was our youngest, newest member that brought that to us. And it has been a game changer to us. And we're working on getting that implemented across the department. And that was the youngest guy.
Describe that pit crew.
It's kind of like when when we're assigned to the fire truck and we go to a fire, we have everybody's got an assignment. When I get off the truck, I'm going to do a 360. I'm going to do this. I'm going to have this tool. The driver's going to do X. The nozzle person's going to pull the fire hose. So basically what it comes down to is we all have the an assignment for a cardiac arrest. So when we walk in the door, everybody knows where they're going. Yeah. Everybody knows what they're doing. And I'm not like, I was blown away when Jeremy Reese is the one who brought it to us, and I think he brought it from his other department from Concord. It's to me, it is inspiring to see the newest, youngest guy on our fire department comes to this with this idea. It gets implemented, then we can actually see the impact of it. Everybody's got an assignment. Everybody knows where they're going to be. We write it up on the board in the morning, just like when it says you're the driver, you know what you're supposed to do. And right next to the driver board or the driver's name is, this is what you're going to do on a cardiac arrest. This is what the nozzle person's going to do on a cardiac arrest. And everybody's got a job, and it just goes so much better. It just seems like everything gets done calm. Everybody knows how to do it. We got a backup plan. It's a big deal, I think. I really do. I look at it and it's like, how have we not thought of that?
Sure.
How can we be this far into your career and you haven't went, well, why don't we do it just like we do on a fire scene? Those seem to go okay. Yeah. And here's our newest guy, and I'm just super proud of him for that, and super proud of the crew that we were all open-minded enough to listen to him when he brought it up, and we got some senior people up there. There's several 20-plus year people, and every one of those guys were like, yeah, let's do it. And we started training on it, and we'll do scenarios, and, it's part of our day. And Murphy and I were talking the other day that they put out, if we get dispatched on a report of a fire, or we get dispatched on a report of a non-breather, it's with the exact same emotion. Like, it's like, you're not dying. I mean, we have these cups right there, not on a red day. You're not going to die on us. If there's a chance that we can get you, we're going to get you. Yeah. And that's the mindset that these guys have taken just out of that pit crew CPR that 22-year-old Jeremy Reese came up with.
That's cool.
So that's awesome.
You said something earlier that it's what have you not done in a while that's going to get you today? And you used the term red slice. What is that? And fill me in on that term.
I went to a class down at Teeks, and I can't give you the full definition. It was a chief from California, from LA, and he used it just describing, what is it that you're not thinking of that's going to get you? And, you've got all these, you're on the scene of a house fire or whatever, and you're like, okay, I got the building construction stuff down. I got the 360 down. I think we got the fire contained. I think we got all this stuff. What am I not seeing? What am I doing that I shouldn't be doing? What am I not doing that I should be doing? And that's kind of what he described as the red slice, the part of the puzzle that you're not thinking of that's going to get you. There's a gas leak in the basement that you haven't thought of yet. There's a propane tank in the garage that is sitting next to the car that's still smoldering, that you're trying to get a search on the rest of the house, those kind of things.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of what I look at if I'm trying to come up with training. If I got a day that it's on me, what haven't we done in a while? What is the thing that it's going to get us? And a lot of times I try and focus on basement fires, just the little stuff about that, just because I think it's operating above a fire for us, especially in our community where we have a ton of new construction. It's a lightweight construction. We have just a lot of that in our district. We have a lot of the flexible gas lines. So I think if we're going to get caught somewhere, that's where we're going to get caught. So the more time I can spend with that, the more time I like to, just talking about it, making sure we're thinking about, how do we move across the floor, getting that good 360, using the camera to do it, all those kind of things. And it's not it's definitely not a routine call, but that's where we're going to be.
Now, walk me through some of the stuff you're actually looking at on a basement fire. Give me your first considerations. How are you kind of bringing that back into the forefront of your head? What and why are you doing that? Let's start with that.
The first thing that I would say is, as a crew, we have a common terminology of of this is in the basement until we say it isn't. And everybody on the truck is thinking about it. We build that culture that I want to hear what you have to say. I want to hear if you got a gut feeling, if you got the hair on your back of your neck is standing up. It's like, hey, I think this may be in the basement. All those things. So that's kind of the first step for us is everybody on the scene. We've already established, these are smoke conditions for a basement fire. Everybody is thinking about that. So if we can identify it early and we know where the fire's at, and, none of us are big grizzled fire dogs or anything like that, but, you've been to a few fires and you've seen some things that, like, if it's below you and you got to operate above that thing, it's a lot more dangerous. So let's use some precaution. Sure. Let's figure out how to get in this the best way, the safest way. And whether or not we're going to a lot of fires, it doesn't change the fact that it's dangerous. It's even more dangerous when you're not going to a lot of them because your experience level isn't what a lot of other people are. So I think you even have to be more cautious. But for us, it's just a crew mentality that, everything is about it's underneath us until we prove that it's not. Once we prove that it's not, then we can go from there.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I'm going to throw up a basement fire here. It's just a YouTube. Honestly, I haven't watched it. And tell me what you're thinking and what your progressions are on it. Let's see if we can pull that up there.
Where am I looking?
Should be on the TV. You got it up there?
Yeah.
All right. So what do you see and what are you thinking?
It's the thing that I feel better about is that I know it's a basement fire. That's really the biggest concern I have. Once we know where it's at, we can kind of go to work at that point. I'm a big fan of the transitional attack. I think there's a lot of truth to that, a lot of science to it. That you knock the energy out of it, and then you can get in there and get inside and do what you need to do. So yeah, with this, I don't know if you're playing that up there too or not, but
I am. Yeah. They can see what you can see right now.
Okay. Yeah. For me, you got a heavy body of fire underneath you. You've got an older building, and that's kind of the difference between what our district is we don't have a lot of those 100-year-old buildings that we're going to. Everything that we have is 20, 30 years old, plywood or particle board flooring. So you get that kind of fire in a basement in Dublin, that floor's gone. You may have trusses there or joists there, but you're not going to have the floor's gone. Yeah. So those are the things that if I see fire blowing out of a window, there's no floor underneath or over top of it. That's just going to be my immediate reaction to that. But knock it down, and half the battle is just knowing where it's at. If you can pull up and where it's at, this is going to go a lot better. When you pull up and there's smoke coming out everywhere and you don't really know where it's at, how far you got to go in, what it's going to look like. Is it deep? Is it just a couch or something simple? That's a different scenario for you as a company officer and as your crew. It's first arrival.
Sure. How are you? Obviously, you're fighting through the basement, zero visibility. Talk to me about tick use and how you use it in your operations.
A lot of the videos that came out of UL with with showing how much the carpet and things like that, the flooring that's over top of it is hiding the fire underneath it. They did a video series where they were focusing on the register vents and seeing those register vents, and that always stood out to me. That if I think I've got it, if I'm anticipating that this is a basement fire, and I'm not seeing anything on the camera on the floor, that's something I want to start looking for. Is see if I can see a register vent. And if it pops that it's hot, then that's telling me a lot more about what's going on underneath me. One of the things that we have done here is we put a thermal imaging camera, one of them small ones, in the battalion car. that when they do their secondary 360, once they get on the scene, they can find, hot spots around the outside of the building and maybe give us an idea of where that fire's at in the house. Where can we launch that attack from safely and get down the stairs because it's in, the whatever corner of the building it may be. So those are all little things. Make sure your camera's on when you're doing your 360. Look for the outskirts of the building. Is there any smoke conditions that are changing, different, whatever? And this kind of comes back to what we talked about earlier. It's, you got to be a student of this. I'll never forget Dave Karn telling all of us one night that when you think you got it figured out, retire, because that's when you're going to get one of you hurt. And I haven't been to a ton of fires, but I've been to a few, and you learn something from every single one. I can't think of a single fire that I've ever been to that I was like, yeah, we nailed that one. Yeah. I mean, there's a ton of things like, oh Lord, what were you thinking? Some of them I think I could have been fired for just for incompetence. It's like, man alive, you're terrible.
So one interesting thing about the Seek thermal imager is I actually found out by accident the other day that you could take pictures on that. That's one of those things where, and so it's for those who don't know, it's the top right button. I was trying to get a, so the top right button here, right above the temperature 1022, you click that one time and it'll screenshot whatever you're looking at. So for after action or for, I'm running back upstairs and showing battalion the panel and the hot breakers or whatever it may be. Just something interesting on that one.
I think we used that. We had that training fire last year, the basement fires that we did. And we used that a bunch because at the time, Lieutenant Harler he just got those. So we were obviously, all of us were geeking out with them and figuring out what they would do and recording this and recording that. And he was telling me about it.
Do they record video that you know of?
I think they do.
Okay.
I think. I'm not positive.
But
I think there's some video, but I don't think there's very much.
Okay.
And I may be mixed up between one of the ones that we have at the Career Center because I know we can videotape with that on a little SD card.
Yeah. That one was interesting because I plugged it in. We lost the charger in the truck. It went bad. And so I plugged it in the computer to charge. And it says, would you like to see the hard drive? And I'm like, yes.
Of course I would.
Yes, I would.
As a matter of fact, I would. Yeah, for sure.
All right. So, you've talked about teaching at the Career Center. What advice, what is something that you've traditionally taught your students that you feel like is a key point that you want to bring home to them?
Wow. I
know that I was one of your students, so there's a lot passed on, both physically and mentally.
There is. I think the thing that a lot of the instructors, Lieutenant Mike McKean from Columbus, and Tony Coletta from Columbus, and Dave Williamson, I mean, a lot of the guys that's been there for a long time, we've always taken a lot of pride in the attitude that our students have. You can go learn to be a firefighter about anywhere, but Dalen Zartman told me one time, he said, I can always tell, he said, if you line 10 new people up, I can tell which ones came from your program, just, in a 30-second conversation. There is so much that attitude of, we're not going to stop, and you train that so much into these people. And, it's hard. And it's, and you being a person that went up there, we physically, mentally challenge you. And I think over time we've learned to figure out a way to not soften that message, but encourage that message a little bit more and support it of it's okay. It's okay. I've seen tons of grown men cry, because they've just been beat down, and to see them go to break that much and still come back and be successful in their career. I think that's probably the biggest thing, is just that attitude. You got to have a little bit of swagger. You have to have a little bit of arrogance, I think, to do it well. But not over the top, but you got to have enough confidence in yourself that you can get after it.
Sure. And
I think when we teach up there, that's probably the difference between our students, is they've they've got a little bit more attitude about, I can do this. And it's because they've been pushed to that level and they were successful past it. They went past their comfort zone. And now they realize that there's a new comfort zone for them to work in. And I think that's probably the thing that I'm most proud of about what we've been able to do. And it's a group of people that have bought into it from the get-go when, Jack Reel and Mitch Ross and Kennel and all those guys started that program. That was their dream and their mentality about how to do things. And, that's why I think I'm so proud of what Kristen's doing is she came from that program and she continued that line of, we're going to be great mentally, and that's going to make us great physically, and that's going to make us better firefighters. And when you look at it, that's the difference. That's that it factor that I think changes what they do at that program versus what maybe some of the other. Nothing against anybody else. I mean,
Sure.
I know tons of firefighters and tons of instructors that have great programs, but I think we just spend a little bit more time focusing on that. And it's demanding up there. I mean, I won't apologize for any of that. It's, it was rough back in the day. It was harder. There's a lot of times I think about that. It's that Adam Sandler movie where he called up the dude and apologized for being mean. I think there's a lot of times I could spend my day just calling all former students like, I'm really sorry for what I said to you. It's like, man, am I glad I called that guy? Because it was rough.
So I want to do a few things with you. We talked about a couple questions here at the end.
Yeah.
Real quick fire scenarios. We'll pull up on YouTube, and I just want to hear your thoughts, what's going through your head. But first, one last question for you as you're talking about that. I think every generation has looked at the next generation as softer or in some way, from hippie long hairs in the 60s to
100%.
The Facebook generation of today. How have you changed your messaging and still made it, especially in a culture now where you have to be so delicate with the way you say things, but still demand the hardness, still not drop your expectation while softening your message?
I have definitely had a lot of conversations with people about that because it's one, I don't think that the people are less today. That is probably something that it took me a long time to get to. And I can remember Chief O'Connell always beating me up about, your message is so hard that you miss so many people. And what I've kind of figured out is he was right in that fact that you have to figure out a way to get your message to people. It's not always your way, and I think that's the part that you see this next generation of firefighters. I think they're better than what we were when we were coming on. I really do. You look at the run volume that you guys are taking now versus what I took when I came on. I was having to work 2 or 3 jobs at other firehouses to get the same run volume that you're getting every third day. The things that this generation deals with, it's different than I may have dealt with, but it's just as challenging. We use the I don't know, story of, the bucket's still full. All I need you to do is carry a full bucket. Some people are going to be able to carry this cup, and that's all they can carry, man. But as long as that thing's full, that's all that matters. This generation, I don't think that we are any easier when we teach. And I mean, there's a group of part-timers that, I don't even know how many of them are still working here that was at that training fire last year. And I mean, I lit into them something sideways, and they understood what we had to do. I think you just, as an instructor, you got to figure out that your job is to figure out how to teach them and get them to do it. It is not, you got to do it my way. If you don't do it my way, you're wrong. And I think if there's something that's changed in my teaching philosophy and my, understanding of stuff, is that I've stopped thinking that, if this, I'm going to throw a ladder this way. And this is the way that I throw the ladder. And if you can't throw the ladder the way I do, well, you're an idiot. You're one of those new guys that, you've never been around a ladder, and that's why you can't do it. It's because you grew up on Facebook. Well, it's not necessarily the case. My body type is built to be able to handle this situation this way. Your body type may be able to do it a different way. That doesn't mean it is wrong. As long as it's still safe, I don't care if you can genie the thing up there for, whatever way that you get it there. And I think the older I've gotten, the more I focus more in my training on, okay, if you can't do it that way, let's figure out a way for you to do it.
Yeah.
Whether it's pulling hose, throwing a ladder, doing a search, whatever. I mentioned Kristen Hunt. We were on a fire with Jerome here a month or two ago. I don't know how long it's been. And she was on a 2-inch line in there. And I mean, anybody, if you've ever met Kristen, she's all of maybe 5'2", 5'3". I don't know. She's not a very big girl. And I mean, she went to work on this hose line. And like, I remember even stopping and watching her for a minute. And it's like, good gracious, man. This girl is just eating this thing better than I could have ever done it. Like, I know what my ability is on that hose line, and I'm watching her, and it's like she has figured out how her body type, her mechanics, her physical stature can be effective. And I think that's the part that, I look at so many different people in the fire service, and it's like, well, I can't do that because of this. That's the worst attitude to have with it. We got to figure out how you do it. The job's not going to change. We still have to take that hose line inside. We still have to throw the ladder. We still have to drag the victim. How can you do it? Let's find your way, and maybe your way is different than mine. That's fine. Maybe I'm going to learn something better. We all pull hose with a 6-foot piece of webbing now, 2.5-inch hose line. I can show you a technique that at the time my son was 80 pounds. 80 pounds on a 2.5-inch line flowing 350 some gallons a minute at 80 pounds. 80 pounds body weight. That's not a brute force. The kid barely had enough weight to hold the line down. It's a technique. Yeah. And we learned that through somebody that couldn't do it the way we always did it. We didn't learn that because we just decided that, we're going to learn a new technique on moving 2.5 today. No, one of our firefighters could not move it the way that I was moving it. So we had to figure out a way that they could move it.
You have two different ways to look at it. Either they're not going to hack and they need to get out.
Absolutely.
Or take time and learn something from
Absolutely.
them.
And I think that's the part that I really hope, if there's something that we can change in our generation, we get away from that. You're a slacky. You can't do it the way we do. Get out. Man, let's figure out how you can be successful. And believe me, I'm sure there's going to be people that would hear this and be like, gee, many Christmas, Maddie drank the Kool-Aid. But I've just figured out over 25 years of doing this, I need everybody. I can't win without everybody. If you're not on board, I'm not going to win, and losing is not an option for me, so that's what's changed that mentality of, believe me, I can't even imagine having a conversation with myself 20 years ago and thinking that I would say this. If you played this for me 20 years ago, I'd be like, that guy's an idiot. He's soft.
All right. Well, let's get to that. I just got a few fire scenarios. Again, they're nothing special, pulled off YouTube, and just want to see where your head's at and bounce some ideas off you. So we're going to go up to here. What do you see on that one?
Heavy free fire burning.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of searchable area on it. I think we're getting really, really close to a defensive operation, but I definitely want to get a search of all of that first floor and probably, I don't know what side of the building we're looking at, but the opposite side of the building, see if we can get a search in on that. A few cars in the driveway, but it almost looks like it could be abandoned.
My understanding is this reminds me a lot of what Worthington would have at 270-23.
Yeah.
With the church up there and the school.
Yeah. I don't know if they're going to have enough juice to get anything done with that, but,
Any thoughts on going in that door on the second floor stairwell there? Or just keep that line outside?
I would probably have that line outside rolling and then make a push for that second floor. But I think for me, the first thing that I would want to do is I'm going to open that ceiling up as soon as I open that door up. on that landing, and get that ceiling open and get water up into that attic space and try and shut it down. I mean, I think you can definitely make an attack on it. Now that view right there is a little bit different, just because you can see the fire on the left corner, top left corner. Now it's pushing all the way down and around the corner. Yeah, you may be well past that door that we were talking about.
Okay.
You know, being able to see that much of the building. I couldn't see that much of it before, but you got to get ahead of it.
Yep.
Yeah, you're not going to get ahead of that.
And that's it very quickly. And as I was watching this the first time, I'm like,
you're gonna have a county meeting out there. So
and you can see the metal roof here just start to glow red hot all the way up to the.
Yeah, and that's something that even to keep in mind for ladder pipes. It's you get these metal roofs that they're not burning through like a wood roof would, where you can get that hose stream down into it. You're just bouncing water off of it and cooling the roof, but you're not really getting to the seat of the fire to knock that thing down. Is something to think about.
Yeah, and I think they do a good job here actually getting level with the window and going through the
there
structure.
You go, coming up from the bottom of it. Yeah.
So, all right, let's see what else we can find here. Unfortunately, I got to play with the ads here while we do all this as well. So we'll get into the final questions as we pull these videos up. What's your favorite part about being a firefighter as we wrap up here?
Oh, I think the family side of it. I love being with I love being at the firehouse. I love the camaraderie of the crews, and the jokes and the stories, and I just filled out my paperwork yesterday to start into the drop next month, and even that it kind of hits a little bit that this is coming to a close, and that's the part that I think that I miss. I remember Brad Rose telling me when he retired, he said, I don't miss the circus, but I sure miss the clowns. And just the day in, day out stuff that goes on, I think that's the part that I love the most. But I'm one of those people that everybody that I hang around with is a firefighter. Like, my brother's a firefighter, my uncle's a firefighter, my father-in-law's a firefighter, my oldest daughter married a firefighter, my youngest daughter is dating a firefighter. It's like that's all I hang around with. So you just get used to that lifestyle, and I think that's my favorite part. It's just the people, that kind of people, the people that would do this job. Those are the kind of people that I like to be around, that they love that aspect of it.
What motivates you?
I just want to be good at my job. You're always afraid of being a hypocrite. I spent an hour yesterday morning sitting at a little restaurant studying SOGs. Because I want to make sure that I can do my job. I think that's probably the biggest thing. I don't want to let somebody down. And that's the crews that I have, my family, and I just love it. I absolutely love it.
You ever feel like you're ready from promotion to stepping in and
No. I got promoted to lieutenant when I was on a volunteer department, and I remember the first fire I had after I got promoted. We pulled up, and as soon as we just stepped off the truck, and they put out a mayday, and I remember that thought going through my mind that you thought you were ready until now. And you better be ready now, brother. And I'll never forget that feeling of that pucker factor of, oh crap, this is for real, and you better have your game together. And pretty much ever since then, I don't think that I'm ready. I don't think I'm ready to be a captain. There's times that it's like, you did all right. That didn't suck, but there's so much to learn about this job. Like, there's so many things, not take the COVID stuff away, take all the Ebola and all, or whatever the last, I can't even remember what the name of the last freaking thing was that was going to kill all of us. There's so many things that can get you hurt in just a blink that there's just so much to learn. And no, I don't think you're ever ready. I think if you tell me you're ready and you're good, that's like an immediate red flag to me. Yeah. Immediate red flag. It's like, I'm going to keep an eye on that guy. Because I think once you've been on for a little while, you realize, I can't remember where we came up with it, but we're a bunch of instructors. We were all sitting around one time talking, and we came up with the breakdown of your fire career. So from like 0 years to 7 years, you're fairly safe because you just don't know anything. You just haven't seen enough things to know that you don't know anything. So you'll stay pretty close. You'll be pretty reserved about things. You won't really get into too much trouble inside a building. You're not going to get very far away from the crews. From 7 years to about 15 years, that's when you're the most dangerous, because that's the time period where you've seen enough that you think you know what you're doing, and that's about the time that I got promoted to lieutenant, all right, in my career. So you think you know what you're doing at that point. And to me, that's when you're the most dangerous time period. And then from like, say, 15 to 20 some years, that early 20 years, you're pretty safe because you've almost died enough times, or you've almost killed somebody enough times that it scared you that you're like, we got to be pretty careful here. So that's not a bad time period in your career. And then once you hit 25 years, you go back to the most dangerous time period again, because now you don't think that you know everything. You know that you know everything. And from 25 to your retirement day, that's the most dangerous time, because not only you got a little bit of knowledge, you think you know what you're doing, and you're going to get yourself and everybody around you hurt. So that's the fight that you're in right now, or at least I'm in right now. It's like, you don't know everything. You have to continue to learn, and just try and be around people that are willing to humble your head really quick.
I like that.
So just keep that in mind. I don't know where you're at in your career, but if you're in that 10 to 15 year window, be careful, brother. 7 to 15 year, be careful.
And so we'll jump over to this, and then we'll do our last 3 questions, and then we'll let you out of here.
All
right. What do you see here?
Probably a bathroom fire or some manner. Just because it's a different size window. I think you could probably hit it from the outside right there if you've got a line, if you can't get inside, but we're definitely working our way inside. Just about any fire we go to, I want to be inside. I always feel like we can be more successful getting inside the building. Right there. I'm not. I don't know what these guys are doing. I don't know what their staffing's like. Whatever. But get inside the building. It doesn't look like it's running the attic that much. It's probably in the attic, but it's not really running it that much. I don't see a lot of smoke pushing out of any of the other windows, so it's probably isolated. Pretty close. Looks like that other side's starting to get a little bit of push, so maybe that's like a master bedroom. And it's in that whole bedroom. Maybe there's a window on the front side of it there. But yeah, I'd definitely be trying to get inside. Be careful with that. Make sure those guys are on the inside or someplace that you're not going to put that right on top of them.
That was my thought when I was looking at that. I was trying to figure out why they were waiting. And the only thing I could think of is they're waiting for inside crews to hunker down.
If they get they can get back to a hallway or something like that.
But I never saw the red line dancing, like they were working the water as they were going in. So.
Sure. And when you back that up a little bit, you don't really see the smoke change either, like that they're on the inside hitting it. And maybe, that's the thing, is there's 5,000 variables as to why those guys, maybe it's a hoarder house. I don't know. It looks like, it's somewhat clean, but maybe they just can't make that push inside, and it's, taking longer than the chief wants, and he told them to, protect yourself, get into the hallway. We're going to hit it from the outside, and then you can go get it.
Sure.
nothing wrong with that at all.
Very cool. What to this day, what is a favorite role that you've had in the fire service? What seat have you enjoyed the most?
Oh, the one I'm in right now. Yeah. It's the best job I've ever had. Without question, best job I've ever had. You know, you're high enough up in the organization that you can impact change, and you know, and you can be involved in that, and you get a seat at the table. But you're low enough down that I'm still doing the things that I love. You know, and without question, the captain spot that I've got right now is the best job I've ever had. I mean, the time that, you know, we rode the ladder every day with Gar and Stewie and Tater, and I shouldn't say that, it's Chief Smith and Lieutenant Gardini and Captain Stewart, but it's just funny that all of us have moved up. But you know, I think about that time then. You know, that was a lot of fun, but I really enjoy where I'm at right now.
Very cool. What's your best senior man or officer, and what do they do to make such a big impact on you?
I've had a few of them. I think most of them are very humble. You know, they're those people that they don't have to yell at you. They don't have to, you know, bring that kind of attitude. I think a lot of times like for me as the officer, I think a lot about not letting them down, you know, and I think when you've got a good senior firefighter, that's a characteristic that everybody thinks about is I don't want to let that guy down. You know, I think about, you know, Jim Fish, or, you know, he's our badge 1 right now. And, you know, the times that I've been on scenes with him and just that coolness. Phil Morris was another one that, you know, when I first got promoted, I got the opportunity to go to 92s and work with Phil Morris and Jimmy King. And, you know, those guys were so calm under pressure. And they had this brand new lieutenant that, you know, I was scared to death. One, I'd looked up to them my entire career, and now I'm their boss. And, you know, Dalen was over there at that time. And they just had that calmness of, like, everything that I do, I did not want to disappoint them, you know, and I think that was something that they didn't ask for. You know, they never would have asked for that. They never asked to be referred to as a senior guy. There was never anything like that, but they carried themselves in that mindset. And I think that's the thing that was so cool about those guys and the way they handle their business is you never hear them say, I'm the senior man. You would never hear any of those guys say that. They're the senior man in the firehouse or the senior firefighter because of how they do their job. Has nothing to do with seniority. And, you know, when you look at what you can learn from those guys, it's, you know, I'll never forget my first fire as a lieutenant here. And we pulled up, and I'm trying to get off the truck, take all my stuff with me. I left my camera. I had to go back to get to the camera. And by the time I got out of my seatbelt, all my stuff ready, Phil walks up and he's like, hey, the fire's on the second floor. I did a 360. I mean, he just rattles 500 things that I could have never processed in a million years, and he had it done in like 10 seconds. And I'll never forget that feeling of you literally do not know anything. Like, you are a complete walking idiot. And, you know, and just that mentality that those guys are just so good at their job and just so humble about it. You never hear them say anything. I remember Jimmy yelled at Dalen one time because he wasn't letting me make a decision. It was so funny. You know, I was trying to process stuff, and finally Jimmy's like, hey, why don't you just let him be a lieutenant for a minute? And I made the total wrong decision. And the cool part about it with those guys, they were so good at what they did, they could compensate for the bad decision that I made. I mean, it was like a mobile home fire or a camper fire or something. I don't know what it was. But Jimmy let me make the call, knowing it was wrong and knowing what he had to do to overcome what I did, and he was still good enough to fix it and let me learn from it. And super humble about it. He's like, hey, just think about this when the next time you get this opportunity. And I'll never forget that feeling of, man, you're so lucky to be able to get to be a lieutenant with that caliber of firefighter that, you know, they were so good at their job. they could compensate for any stupid call that I made. And, you know, just the humility of those guys. And I'll never forget that feeling of just, man, I hope I don't suck and let them down. I really hope I don't. So I don't know how else to say it, man.
What, give the listener something tangible. What is one drill that you like to perform with your crew? Is there a go-to or something you've had?
We will do just a basic hose deployment and dress out at the door drill pretty regular. I think there's, you know, the times that I've been, you know, that things get bottled up at the front door, it's something with PPE, whether, you know, somebody dropped a glove, somebody dropped their helmet, they didn't get their mask on right, you know, whatever the case may be, or the hose didn't get stretched right. So I think the more, I mean, we've all heard the saying, you know, the fire's going to go the way the first line goes. If you can spend a lot of time focusing on getting from the truck to the inside of the building, everything on the inside of the building, we're gonna be able to move a little bit. But we just didn't have that problem getting there. And it's a time thing. You know, I can reduce the amount of time it takes me to get inside, get water on the fire. The fire's not going to double in size, or, you know, it's not going to grow as fast as it would have. You know, so that's really a go-to for me. Just pulling hose and getting dressed.
Last question.
Yep.
What would you tell your younger you if you could pull him aside on his first day?
I don't think we got enough time for that. Man, just be humble. You know, I look back at the things that, you know, the way I carried myself, and, you know, Mike McKean and he was my first officer, and, you know, he always teases me. He's like, you'd never seen a fire that you couldn't put out, you know, when you were 18 years old. And he's right. And it's like, man, if I could just humble yourself a little bit, you know, I think I could have probably connected to more people if I'd have been able to be more humble. Then, you know, you always sit and wonder about it, though. It's like, yeah, but you wouldn't have been where you are. You wouldn't be who you are today if it wasn't for that. But I think there's probably a lot of people that I've encountered that I didn't get to connect with that I wish I would have, that maybe I could have learned something from them, that just because of my arrogance at the time, it just didn't work.
Yeah.
So that'd be it.
Very cool. Well, Matt Scarbury, thank you for your time.
Appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been fun. We'll do it again sometime, or you know, I'll take any advice or any time you got in the future.
Yeah, I'll do the same thing. It takes a lot.
Very good. Well, thank you so much.
No problem. Well,